Sadly, Stefano couldn't be here, but does send his apologies. Unlike the last presentation, I just wish to have an overview. Where do we stand, what we're doing, where we're going. Ernest Hemingway, the author, said, when he didn't know what to do, he got a mental block. He asked his 5 friends, who, what, where, why, and when. And I think that's very much where we've been in all the dialogues, the discussions that we have over many places. This is a chart I'm sure everybody is familiar with. I'm sure it may be repeated during the day. It basically outlines what we're talking about, of the gases, the refrigerants, are very similar. They're tested with the same safety issues, the same safety standards, and basically perform very similar. But as you move through, you see that an A2 and an A2L will propagate a flame, but then that flame spreads at a far higher rate than the other gases. So it's important to know those things as we move forward. What is safe, what is not safe? None of these are safe. Anything that can burst into flame is not safe. So we have to put the measures in place to ensure that that happens. As we said, back in 1989, the Montreal Protocol came into effect. Since then, in the 3 main areas of Europe, the States, and China have put their own protocols in place, their own standards, their own regulations, which have vehemently addressed, acted upon, and worked with. In the States, it's the EPA. In China, it's the Green Cooling Action Plan and the F-gas regulation. And as we said, the F-gas regulation is moving and moving and moving, and in 25 years' time, that will be defunct. The products themselves, as we see, most of the products that are being used are now banned or being banned. R22 is a thing of the past, 410A is a thing of the past. It's not there anymore. We have to look forward. We've got to look at the products which are excellent in usage but dangerous to use. So how do we certify that? How do we make sure that nobody gets hurt, buildings don't explode, products don't explode? Because that's what we're looking at, and that's what we have to be careful with. So the safety standards predominantly developed in the States, which was developed with a harmonization of the IEC 60335-2-40 with UL 60335-2-40. That came about and has been working for a long time very successfully now. Though at first, each state had its own view, its own points, and slowly but surely, through the states, they have to comply and they have to work with the same regulation. In Europe, the EN standards is the IEC 60335-2-40. Again, it's the same standards. Now, that's been harmonized throughout Europe. It doesn't matter what the requirements are in whichever country, they now are using that across Europe. The IEC was the original draft edition. Now we come in, so that was in 2019. Now we move forward, we move forward, we move forward. And you'll see later on the slide how the progress has been made. Now we looked after a draft edition 8, version 1. That's now coming into play. So things are changing. All the way along the line, it doesn't matter what's happening, what's going on, things are changing. So we, as certifiers, we, as researchers, have to ensure that we're looking at the right things. as manufacturers, as consultants, as designers, as bodies of authority, we have to make sure that we're using the right things and making sure that we meet the standards, ensure that the products are certified, ensure that the products can be used safely. So if we look through, it's taken 13 years to get to where we are now. And those standards that started still in place, but with modifications all the way through. Having to amend as we move, as new refrigerants are on the market. And new refrigerants, because of low GWP, are being replaced and moved out. What we don't know in the next 10, 12, 15, 20 years, what new refrigerants and new hybrids or new natural products will be able to be used. But again, we have to ensure that the qualification and the certification and the safety is in place to meet all those things and those transitions. It's important that bodies like UL ensure that through our non-commercial aspects, because UL, as you may know or may not know, has 3 different parts to it. We have the research and development side. We have standards and engagement, and ourselves as UL Solutions. The research part, over a multitude of years, have worked with many different organizations to ensure that the standards that are in place are first-class safety standards. So it's not what we as UL Solutions come to you and say, this is what we can do. Yes, we're a commercial side, but there's a hell of a lot of work that's gone on before to get to that point. And that's the vast part of what UL does. So when you are looking at what do you include within the requirements, you've got to look at the charge, you've got to look at construction, ignition sources, leakage and temperature, and eventually the marking. Where's the charge, where it's coming from? What's going to happen, where does that flow? What is going to be there that could cause an ignition? The construction of the products have changed. Now a refrigeration pipe has to be encased to ensure it doesn't get damaged. You can't use it if you're transporting it, etc., etc. All those things are in place to ensure the maximum safety. The ignition sources. What, when that gas escapes, could create that ignition? Is it a switch somewhere that's going to happen? If so, we need to look at that and say, well, okay, you can't put it there, you have to put it somewhere else. You've got to reconstruct. So as manufacturers and designers, you've got to look at all those things all the time. You need to look at what the testing necessities are to ensure that you manufacture and design in recognition of that testing, that certification, and that safety standard. So, the leakage part, where is it? We can also undertake, not practical tests, but we're going to undertake CFD analysis and look at where leakage could occur, where the trigger points would be. We have that capability. So you don't have to manufacture a product, get it tested, get it blown up, do whatever it is. You can do it through CFD analysis. We can perform that for you. I think as we look forward, it's a constant change. It never stands still. And we have to be aware of that. We face new challenges on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And whether that be through regulatory training and advisory, the leak testing, all the way through to the component certification. Everything has got to be looked at separately, but together. We as UL can undertake all of those integral parts to ensure that you and the regulatory bodies have the correct products to go to market without risk. And as everybody said now, that's just the starting point. After that, you have to get the people and the bodies that can actually utilize, maintain, install. If you don't have that, the rest means nothing. We can also undertake that part for you as well, along with your event, with our own training programs. So all those things can happen. You've got to buy into that. It's happening. You can't change it. It's not going to go backwards. So the earlier you start looking at everything to move everything forward, the better it will be for everyone. On behalf of Stefano, myself, and you all, thank you very much for your attendance.